Welcome to our Easter service. I'm glad you've joined us today. My name's Reverend Rick McCollum, and I'm the senior minister here at Center for Spiritual Living Parker. I want to let you know that here at our spiritual center, we honor all paths to God. We recognize that there are many ways for people to have a relationship with the God of their understanding. So wherever you are on your spiritual journey, know that you are welcome here. And we're glad that you're with us today. I'd like to also remind us of our 30-year goal as a spiritual organization. We call this our big, hairy, audacious goal. And it says, the Center for Spiritual Living Parker is a global resource to help people discover and live their spiritual truth. So that's what we're about here. And I hope during this service today that you will be encouraged to discover and live your spiritual truth. I'd like to update you that this past week we were notified by the Douglas County school system that the school will remain closed through May 31st. So our board is meeting this coming Monday, and we will have our regular meeting. We'll be looking at some different alternatives to see if there's something else we should do. Of course, we have to wait until we find out what the social distance rules will be at the end of April, if they're going to continue those on, if they'll limit the number of people that can meet together, or just what that might mean. So stay tuned. We will be having our services here each Sunday until we can meet again in person. And we'll also be sharing with you on Wednesday nights. We have a Spiritual Connection Live on Facebook at 7 p.m. on Wednesday evenings. So join us for both Sunday and Wednesday services. We'll be sending out email links for both of those services. Thank you for being here. And let us move now into our time of meditation.
Welcome to this time of meditation, your time. I invite you to just gently close your eyes, relax your shoulders, move your neck, feel your spine straighten, feel your feet on the floor, allowing energy from Mother Earth to simply feel your body. This time of renewal, this time of rebirth, this time of spring. We simply take any thoughts, cares, worries, fears, and we just watch them drop like leaves from a tree into a gently flowing brook. And we watch the water simply carry our cares and fears away, effortlessly, easily, allowing us to relax, feel calm and peace. And we go to our heart space. We just allow our hearts to open. We think of our loved ones, our children, our friends, our community, our beautiful planet. And we just know that we have the power to make everything a little better, a little happier, a little more loving. That we carry within us that space of caring, of kindness, of sharing, and of gentleness. A time of absolutely being connected with the earth, with the sun, with the beautiful new buds coming out on the trees, with our own thoughts, our own desires, and whatever is desiring to be created in us, to be birthed in our lives. The song we never wrote, the play we never acted in. That story, our life story that we never wrote. We simply allow ourselves to connect with our desires, our heart's desires, and allow this time of rebirth for us and our beautiful planet to unfold in creativity, kindness, caring for one another, a reconnection to everything that we love, value, care about. We simply feel that love coming in from the divine. We are a part of that love. And we feel that warmth, that unconditional love surrounding us with joy and with peace. And we know that this is the time when we have the time to connect with one another, with our true desires, with the earth, with caring in a deeper, more personal way, and feeling our connection to the divine in a very, very powerful way. Knowing all is well with our souls. Just like spring, this is a time when new, wonderful things sprout. And we just allow that to happen with gentleness and kindness. And we just keep that heart space open and send that out into the planet. We breathe out great love and we breathe in great peace. Thank you, Spirit. And so it is.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing well, staying healthy, staying inside and outside, keeping your distance. The song we're going to do this morning, and by the way, the band is not here physically with me, but they're in the background music. And so we've worked together separately to try to put together some music for you and just keep this different. So this song we're going to do today is called Life Goes On. It's a Karen Drucker song, and it's a beautiful song about the fact that life happens. And there's ebbs and flows, there's good and there's bad, there's challenges and there's triumphs. And so this song kind of addresses that. And so bear with us as we continue to bring you music, and hopefully you're enjoying it, even though we can't be with you. Soon we will be again.
Faith has been challenged to the core. Things I was sure of, just can't count on anymore. But a new strength and wisdom has risen from my soul. Each day brings new lessons. This much I do know. That life goes on, even though there are mountains, even though there are valleys. Life goes on, and now I see I don't have any answers. Just take it day by day. Life goes on. Get so scared of life's uncertainty. Keep trying to hold on to the people I love. Sometimes I forget God is holding me. Love is surrounding me. It's a part of the journey. Life goes on. Keep walking over mountains. Keep walking through the valley. Life goes on. Now I see, don't have any answers. Just take it day by day. Life goes on. Oh, 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 oh. Wish I had the power. Nothing I can do but have an open mind. Control is an illusion. We're all living on God's side. Life goes on. Keep walking over mountains. Keep walking through the valleys. 'Cause life goes on. And now I see, don't have any answers. Just take it day by day. Life goes on. Oh, 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 no matter if I'm happy, no matter if I'm sad, no matter if I'm good or bad. Sun will come up, sun will go down. We're on this planet, spinning around. Seasons will change, people will die, babies are born, and we question why. Life goes on. Life goes on.
Our Easter message today is titled Broken Open. We're continuing the series on bright beginnings. And I'd like to begin with a story. It's from several years ago, and it goes that Congressman Morris Udall tells about what happened in the Kremlin when Khrushchev died. Brezhnev and other communist leaders wanted to get his body out of Russia. And so they called President Nixon to see if they could bring him to the United States to be buried. Nixon said he couldn't give them permission to do that he would get too much criticism from the American people. Next, Brezhnev called Prime Minister Heath in England. He got a similar message and turned down from him as well. Then he called Prime Minister Golda Meir of Israel. Meir said she would help. If the Russians came in the middle of the night that they could bury him in a remote location. However, she said, I must warn you that this country has the world's highest resurrection rate. When we think of Easter, we think about the resurrection of Jesus. But before we can have a resurrection, we have to have a crucifixion in this story, or we could call it a death. So before a resurrection, there's always some sort of death. And that's what I want to share with you today. As we look at this, the crucifixion or the death is a necessary part of the resurrection. We don't want to deny the pain, the suffering, the angst, the grief and loss that must come first, that precedes the resurrection. You see, when people focus just on the resurrection, they don't honor the path that has come before that. We see this model repeated over and over again throughout life if we're awake and alert to it. Alicia just sang, life goes on. Life goes on. We go over mountains, we go into the valleys, and she sang, keep walking through the mountains, keep walking through the valleys. We must keep going on. But things do change, and change they will. In his book, Practical Applications of Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes says, our lives and experiences may very well be likened to a river. If we stand on the bank of a river and watch it flow by, we become aware of the fact that the river never changes, but that its content is always new. By analogy, we might say the purposeful, dynamic quality of life, which he's talking about spirit here, that quality of life that's within us never changes. But the content of our experience of living never remains the same. Heraclitus put it this way, you can't step into the same river twice. You see, the river might look like it's here and it's the same, but when you stand, as Ernest said, on the bank and watch the water flowing by, you recognize that that water that has flowed by will never come back. It has moved on. And so the experience in life is something new all the time. Just like you can't step into the same river twice, because the water in that river has changed. Anything else in the river has moved on. And so when you step in a second time, you're actually stepping into a brand new experience, a brand new river, if you will. Do you know the difference between change and transition? This is something I just learned. Change is when we have an external event or situation that takes place in our life. We're going through a change right now in our external world as we learn to deal with COVID-19. The transition here is the inner psychological process that we each go through as we internalize and come to terms with this new situation. So the change is external. The transition is internal for us. Certainly this virus pandemic here that we're moving through right now brings us to that transition period. But there are other things that can bring us to transitions in our lives. It might be that we have a change in, say, the strategic plan that we had for our life or for work. Maybe we've lost a job. Maybe we've begun a new job. A change in boss. We had children that grew up and left home, or maybe now they've returned home. Some of us are moving parents in so that we can take care of them as they age. The stock market fluctuations. There are many things here that create transitions in our life, meaning the internal process, psychological process that we get to go through in regard to an external change that has happened. There are 3 stages of this psychological process, and I want to review those quickly with you. The first stage of transition is that of ending. We identify what we're losing, what's over, and we come to terms with what's left behind. We're doing this right now with the COVID-19 pandemic. We have lost the way life used to be. And we're trying to figure out now, how do we function? How do we live in this brand new world with new situations for us, new rules, new regulations? So the ending of the way life used to be has occurred. Then, the second part of transition is a neutral zone. I would say that's where we are now with the pandemic. In the neutral zone, we have had the loss of the way things used to be, but we're not sure how things are going to be in the future. So we're in this transition place of not knowing what life will be like in the future. Will we be able to gather again? Well, I certainly hope so, and I believe that we will. Will we be able to hug one another? Will we ever be able to shake hands again? Or will that be changed forever? How will life look once we have gotten past this pandemic in our world? The third stage of transition is new beginnings. New beginnings means that we accept new values, new ways of being in the world, and we move our energy in a different direction than where it had been in the past. So we welcome that change. Some people don't welcome it as easy as others, but we move into a new way of life. Another example of this pattern that's very clear to me is talking to anyone who is in a 12-step program. We have stage 1 in the transition, the ending of the addiction, the ending of the old way of life, accepting the fact that I'm powerless over whatever the addiction is. From that place, then, we move into the second stage of transition. And that's where the neutral zone comes in. We're not quite sure how we're going to be living in the future, but we know that life can't stay the way it was. And so we're in this new period of trying to figure things out. For people in recovery, that usually means items like going to 90 meetings in 90 days, trying to figure out, how do I really work this recovery to make it work for me? How do I embrace the steps? And so there's lots of questions that go on for people when they're in this neutral zone in recovery. The third part here is embracing the new life. Living without the addiction. It means new values for us, new ways of relating to life. And the people we hang out with usually have to change, because many of the relationships we had when we were living in addiction would not support us living in recovery. So there is another example for us. William Bridges says in his book, Transitions, Making Sense of Life's Changes, transition always starts with an ending. To become something else, you have to stop being what you are now, to start doing things in a new way. You have to end the way you're doing them now, and to develop a new attitude or outlook You have to let go of the old. I believe that this is part of the message of Easter. Metaphysically, we're in this process. We're going through this process all of the time, continuously in our lives. We're always going through a change and the transition, that psychological transition within ourselves. A retired minister in Centers for Spiritual Living, who is a sage, wise woman, Margaret Storks, says every day we wake up, we're engaging in a resurrection. Remember, there's always possibilities awaiting you. What are you going to do today to make this day count? I like her attitude. Every day we wake up, we're engaging in resurrection here. Deepak Chopra, when he was interviewed by Time magazine, said, the symbolic language of the crucifixion is the death of the old paradigm. Resurrection, he says, is a leap into a whole new way of thinking. So that's what we're looking at here. Leaving the old paradigm, the old way of living, and leaping into a new way of living, being broken open into something more beautiful, more full, more joyful. I'd like to share another Easter story with you. This is about a Sunday school class, and the teacher is teaching the small children. She comes in on Easter Sunday and she asks the kids, what's the meaning of Easter? Well, little Johnny starts raising his hand, waving and waving, trying to get the teacher's attention. Now, she didn't really want to call on little Johnny because he's trouble. He always says something that throws her off. And so she was looking around for someone else to answer her question. Finally, she saw Isaac and she called on Isaac. Isaac said, Easter means the Easter bunny comes and brings us eggs and candy. She said, no, that's not right, Isaac. Who else knows? And the teacher began to look around the room again. Little Johnny's hand is up and he's waving, trying to get her attention. And she calls on Sarah. Sarah, what is the meaning of Easter? And Sarah says, Easter means getting a whole new outfit. No, that's not correct either. Although that is a beautiful new dress you're wearing. Does anyone know the true meaning of Easter? Of course, little Johnny has his hand up. He wants to answer this so bad. He knows it. And so finally, with no one else volunteering, she calls on little Johnny. And he says, Jesus died on Good Friday. Then 3 days later, they rolled the stone away from the tomb. And the teacher thought, oh my gosh, maybe I have taught these kids something. Somebody finally understands the real meaning of Christmas, of Easter. Then little Johnny continued. He said, so the real meaning of Easter is if Jesus walks out of the tomb and sees his shadow, we'll have 6 more weeks of winter. Let me clarify for you, as metaphysicians, Easter is really a time for us to, one, release. Release the old way of being. Release things that no longer serve you, no longer work for you. And 2, Easter is a time to contemplate how we want to make a difference in the world. How do we want to show up? What are the new values that we want to have? This would be the neutral zone. And finally, Easter is to be resurrected, to be raised up into a new life, a new way, embracing our spiritual nature. Are you ready to live in that moment of Easter, dying to the old, creating the new value and understanding your spiritual nature and bringing that forth as a gift to the world. Walt Whitman wrote, "The moment you stand up and claim your divinity, Christ is reborn in your heart. Buddha rejoices. Muhammad dances on top of the mountain. Lao Tzu winks approvingly. And the promise of the tree of life is fulfilled." Each day holds a moment of resurrection for us. We can all find meaning as we move forward in life if we're looking for the good, if we're looking for what can Spirit do through me today. We know that we are one with God, and in that oneness, we can die to our human self and be raised up into our spiritual life. It's a calling for each one of us to be mindful, to be awake and alert as to how we're going to show up in the world. Will you be mindful this week? My assignment for you is really to take some time to see where you need to be broken open. Broken open so that you can leave the old behind. Leave old ways of living and thinking so that you can embrace Spirit and the full possibilities of good in your life. I'd like to ask you to contemplate this week. What would a bright new beginning look like for you? Each of us will answer that differently. But I encourage you to take some time to be still and to ask yourself, what would a bright new beginning look like for me? Have a very happy Easter. Let us pray. Spirit, I thank you for this day and for this message, for the realization that there's not just resurrection each day, but there is the opportunity for the crucifixion, for the dying to our self, to our old ways, to ways that don't serve us any longer. As we move and grow in our spiritual beings, we move to a higher vibration, and we can see that there are things we need to let go of. That's the meaning of Easter here, to let go of those things that have held us down and to be raised up into the beauty of our spiritual lives so that we are living mindfully. So we're living a life that's chosen. Thank you for each person, for each one here at CSL Parker, and for how we can live and support one another in spiritual community. And so I bless each of us as we move through this week, looking at and considering what a bright new beginning would mean for each one of us. Give us wisdom, give us clarity as we search that out, as we spend time with you. Bless us, Spirit. I release my word, knowing it's accomplished and knowing your faithfulness to us. With gratitude overflowing, I say and ask you to join me, and so it is. Blessings. Thank you for being here with us and listening to our Easter message. I hope you're touched and will make those changes in your life. Namaste. For our offering time today, I'd like to invite you to donate one of many ways to support the spiritual center here and the work that we're doing. You can donate online, and there's a little box at the top of our screen that you can use to donate using a credit card. You can donate via Zelle if you're inclined to do that, or you can mail a check in, and we'll share our mailing address, which is the address for the TEC building where we have our office and classroom space. So any option that works for you, we appreciate your support and we bless you for that. I would like to offer our offering affirmation now. I'll say this, and then you can say it afterwards. I activate the law of circulation. As I give, I also receive. My life overflows with prosperity. And so it is. Thank you. Bless you.
Love is alive in the space between us. Feel that love right now. God speaks out in the words between us. Hear those words right now. I am holy. You are holy. There is beauty between us. Spirit shines in the light between us. See that light.